Hello, I'm Will Yeoman and welcome to another episode of the pod Well Travelled. I'm joined today by travel editor Stephen Scourfield and travel writer and photographer and journalist and, I don't know, keen paddler. You do a lot of your bike riding, paddling. You incorporate a lot of that into your stories, so that's why I'm pointing that out.
Yeah. Yeah,
very active. You're not one of these desk-bound sort of journalists that just sits
sometimes I am, but I prefer not to be. Let's put it that way.
No. Well, anyway, gents, welcome back.
Like the other day, I mean, he was just busting to get out of the office, so went off snorkelling. So made a story.
Stephen made the mistake of saying, "Oh, we should do a story on shark nets," and
I couldn't take the agitation anymore seeing you sitting there.
But how many jobs can you say that about? We can just say, I'm just going to go off and do some snorkelling.
Not too many, I must say. And, I guess that leads us into what we were talking about earlier. I mean, we have got so many great spots here just in the Perth metro area.
Absolutely.
That, you can jump in a car and 15 minutes you're at a good beach You tend to forget that when you live in a place, don't you? Sometimes you just take it for granted to some extent.
You do. I always say that every cow in a beautiful green paddock has got its head through the fence eating the weeds out on the verge.
That's a really good way of looking at it.
That's very true, yeah.
And we're in a beautiful green paddock. Yeah. Those pictures you took of the Omeo shipwreck down at Coogee, which is just south of Fremantle, near Perth, were just spectacular. That was fantastic.
Yeah,
that's a great snorkel.
It just turned out, it was a beautiful Perth summer's day, and the sun high, and this Omeo shipwreck is only about 20 metres off the beach, and it's got this perfect hull shape there on this white sandy bottom, so it really stands out well. You've got that.
It's like
greenish,
2.5 to 5 metres deep, so it's not.
Yeah.
In your story, I read it, but I actually haven't done the dive or snorkel there. But it's got like information plaques or something.
Yes, it has. It's got sort of information about the wreck itself. You can obviously read that on plaques before you go in. There's some information about it, but interestingly, along the bottom around the wreck, there's a sort of snorkeling trail with some information and little sculptures and things like that. So it's quite a cool place to dive. But it gets, because it's so accessible, it does get quite busy. And so if you're going to see lots of fish, you either needs to get there really early or find another place.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say really late, but we all know that the sharks feed it.
Yeah,
it does. So don't get that too late.
So
but of course you got the shark net there. Sorry, Will.
No, I was going to say. So you're sort of beneath the water and very much above the water in some of your other stories as well recently.
Yeah,
drone-wise.
Drone-wise.
Not you personally.
Yeah. No. So just to backtrack a little bit. So the following day I went down to look at another place south of Perth called Cape Peron, or locally known as Point Peron. But that's an amazing place as well because, being a cape, you can always find a sheltered beach there, no matter where the wind is coming from. And there's several limestone outcrops and little islands, one called Mushroom Rock, for example, where there's lots of little overhangs and that sort of stuff. So you can always see fish there. It's a much better place for seeing fish than the Omeo wreck. The Omeo wreck is really cool because you can see this shipwreck beneath you and there's lots of growth on it, of course, and that sort of stuff. But when it gets busy, there's not too many fish, to be honest. So a place like Cape Peron is great for that. And as I said, because it's a cape, you can always find a lovely little sheltered beach with sheltered water where you can just wade in and see lots of fish.
Because it's all protected. Both these sites in different ways are protected, but that Cape Peron's got the reef line offshore, hasn't it?
Yes.
Which is the big Tamala limestone plate that goes, well, really all the way to Ningaloo, up through the Midwest. You see those offshore breaks, and that's the protection of all these places. But that certainly is a lovely, safe, protected place to.
Yeah, and they're the kinds of things you would photograph from the air as well.
It looks great from the air.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
I just had a really big ladder.
Yes, I mean
The drone's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is fun to fly in a place like that because it's also safe. I mean, obviously there's rules about where you can fly drones and where you can't, so you need to be aware of those. But in a place like that, you can easily get away from other people, and you're flying over water, so you're not sort of interfering with anyone or annoying anyone by flying the drone. And interestingly, while I was flying my drone down there, I just landed mine and I was packing up, and another guy was doing the same, but he'd come from a area just down the beach, and he asked me whether I'd seen anything interesting, and I said, look, I mean, I was really just flying to get the general view of Cape Peron, so I didn't sort of fly out to the reef or anything like that. But he'd done that, and he'd seen a few hammerhead sharks out by the reef, patrolling up and down out there, which is pretty cool.
I always love that footage where you see a couple of swimmers and a shark just beyond them.
Yeah,
well, I saw some recently in Coral Bay, with a lot of sharks just beyond the swimmers.
Yeah. But generally speaking, certainly down at Cape Peron, you can never tell with these critters, but they generally speaking don't come in beyond the reef line.
Yeah.
So it is.
And hammerheads have very small mouths anyway.
Yeah, exactly. They're bottom feeders, basically, aren't they? Yeah. So long you stay on the surface, you're okay. Yeah. So I mean, they're just two examples of great sort of snorkelling and swimming areas around Perth. North of Perth, there's another great area called Metham's Pool, which is just sort of a sort of naturally enclosed little basin with a reef close by, and there's always lots of fish there.
Yeah,
but that's a little more exposed to the sea breezes and that sort of stuff. So,
true.
Cape Peron, again, I keep coming back to that, but you'll always find a sheltered spot there.
So sort of seclusion, yeah.
Yeah, and of course you have all the islands of the Shoalwater Marine
it's nice
Park
paddling
along.
around there.
Yeah, it's great.
I've done quite a bit of paddling around there. It's a nice little, morning just pottering around out there around the islands.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Cool.
So for something completely different, Stephen has been looking at 3 amazing new hotels elsewhere in the world.
Yes, 3 new hotels in a sense, but it's a really interesting time of year because a lot of new build hotels and refurbishments have sort of come to fruition. I think, quite a lot of the announcements of these new hotels and the openings have sort of waited until, COVID, the tail end of COVID for us, but in other places it feels behind them, I suppose.
Yes.
But it's really quite interesting. The one that I'm probably most excited about is the Iceland Parliament Hotel in Reykjavik. Partly because I'll be there in just a few months time actually. But the spot it's an interesting project. I really like it where a tourism project or a hospitality project reinvigorates part of a city. And the Parliament Hotel is in the sort of Parliament Square, right next to the Parliament building. So there's 7 buildings there which have been either restored or are new builds. You've got the Reykjavik Cathedral, which is, these are also great spots for the kind of northern lights because you will literally see them out of the hotel window, But I think the hotel has been built with such sensitivity. There's part restoration, partly a new build. And it reminds me of the precinct that we have in Perth here, which is where the Como Treasury, in the old Treasury building, rejuvenated that whole square. So some slightly ugly buildings were taken down, others were renovated, restored.
I think it's known as Cathedral Square, is it? Is that right?
Cathedral
Square, that whole precinct.
That's right,
there.
and it's really creative.
It's got the new library, which
Mogens
is amazing.
and I head there with our photo walks with phones.
Indeed.
Because
it's an obvious choice, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that this project in Reykjavik is very similar. So the hotel actually is, it's called, the full name is Iceland Parliament Hotel Curio Collection by Hilton. And the Curio Collection are these sort of It's about 130 odd hotels in the sense, or I hate the word unique, but unusual, culturally sensitive, historically sensitive sort of hotels. So very interesting to have that. It's quite small. I mean, 163 rooms is not a big hotel, and I think that just this position of it between what was the old ladies' school and Independence Hall. You've got this, and it's sort of part of it is the old National Telephone Company building. So that's a historic building that's been brought into the modern era. So that's a beautiful thing. I was also quite interested to see the Manly Pacific in Sydney, which is right on the beachfront there. That's had $30 million spent on it.
Well, so this is the refurbishment.
It was a real pandemic sort of project, and I think quite a lot of properties took that opportunity to do big renovations, whole floors and whole buildings. So that's why they're coming through now, particularly in Australia, where we had a different sort of path through the pandemic. So you're suddenly seeing, when they were shut, they said, we might as well work on the place, which they did. And in actual fact, there are hotels around the world where their staff, their wait staff and their cocktail waiters and bar staff and that, certainly in Bali, they did a lot of renovations employing their staff as builders, and renovators and decorators, and they did the work on the hotel, which kept them employed. Slightly different here, but the Manly Pacific has had a very big redesign, and I think that I'm just looking at the coastal suites, look beautiful, view of Manly Beach. So that's particularly, here we are in Perth, Western Australia. Lots of us travel over to Sydney for various reasons. Yes. So I think the Manly Pacific is it's going to be a pretty good venue for us. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, which sounds slightly odd, I was looking through this myself for some bookings, and it's always frustrating when you find a good price. And then it's, you go, oh, that's a good price. Yeah, I'll book this. And then you go, do you want breakfast? And it's the breakfast thing that always bugs me. Because it's like, $30 for well, if you're lucky, it's a good buffet. And if you're not, it's a loaf of white bread and a bit of tinned fruit. And you go, that wasn't worth $30. But you don't really want to walk out necessarily. Depends where the hotel is. You go through this thing over breakfast. And if you don't book it, invariably you end up there and go, I'll just go down to breakfast. And it's $35 or something. I just spotted that the Holiday Inn Express group, all of their bookings always have breakfast.
Okay.
I think particularly for a family, if you've got a couple of adults and a couple of kids, and you don't really want to go out wandering around looking for a cafe, which is probably going to cost you that anyway. I just think it's a really good way to book.
It's very sensible, isn't it?
It's included in their prices. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's a cost in there, but it doesn't stand out as an extra.
No, exactly.
Family, $100 or
and then if you did want to just say, no, I won't bother with breakfast, I'd rather go out and wander out, well, that's fine too, because you paid for it all anyway. So
I think particularly for families moving around or groups moving around, Holiday Inn Express, I really like the fact that every booking you make, you've just got breakfast included, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got to say on that.
But just touching on the hotels being renovated and using old buildings. I mean, I've stayed a couple of times at the Fullerton hotels recently in Sydney, in St Martin Place there, in the old GPO building. I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah, of course, it's a very good example.
Really well done. And the Fullerton Group also have a couple of hotels up in Singapore. Yep. One of them is also in the old GPO building there, which is not only a great location, but it's also really special to get inside this.
It's a very good point. It's interesting because they're both GPOs, and this. Like a Victor Telecom building too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what made me think of it.
But having said that, the locations of both of those, I mean, I don't know the Singapore one so well, but they're prime examples of somewhere where you could wander out and find some fabulous places to have breakfast.
Well, that's it, because the post office was always the centre of a city.
Exactly right. So I think it's not a sort of blanket rule, is it? It's really
it's not a blanket rule. No, it's not. No. There's no blanket rules. There's doona rules, but there's no blanket rules.
Okay.
Who has blankets?
But the reason I chose the Sydney Fullerton to stay at was because it's just so centrally located.
Yeah.
Like within 2 kilometre radius, you've
Exactly.
got the Opera House, you got the Sydney Harbour Bridge, you got Darling Harbour, you got the Botanical Gardens, and you name it. It just goes on and on.
And a really interesting hotel place to stay.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
a real
exactly.
sense of place in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
So
Good point. There's a good. Yeah, the Fullerton there is
So-
good. Yeah.
made one for the week then.
Well done. No, it's no, you've done very well. The only person who hasn't yet is Will.
What's that?
Not shared anything with us.
Well, I've got nothing to say.
Now, Will, you have got a lot to say about
No,
the
I
art.
haven't.
About the art series.
We've talked a lot about that. We have to be careful we don't
No.
overcook it. It's,
No,
I
I
like to
think
give people a bit of a break.
I think it's worth mentioning the art series again. This is Will leading a tour through the world of Indigenous art in the Northern Territory. I think it's so unusual that it is worth mentioning again.
Well, actually, no, you're right. It is worth mentioning because we should talk about our information night.
Exactly.
Yes, this is what you were getting to, weren't you?
Exactly.
And I know now.
Yeah, so we're having a get together. Will's having a get together.
Because you won't even be here.
I'm not gonna be
Am I
here.
allowed to say that? You'll
Yeah, no, I won't be here.
we'll talk about where you're going to be another time.
Yeah.
Of course.
No, there's a get together here. So in Perth.
Here being at Newspaper House.
Newspaper House,
in
which is the
Perth.
home of Seven West Media. Will's hosting an evening when he'll be talking about the trip and what travellers will be doing with him. Tell us a bit more
Well,
about
okay, exactly.
that.
I mean, it'll be an opportunity for me to go into more detail about some of the galleries, the museums that we're going to be visiting. Some of the artists we'll hopefully get to meet, as well as some of the gallery owners and curators and so forth. Also, the workshop aspect is very important to me, so we'll talk about some of the workshops we'll be doing. We'll be talking about the experiential part of it in terms of your own writing, your own photography, and your own drawing. So this is going to be really interesting. And I think that's the point of difference.
Yeah.
Because there are cultural tours. But how many have built-in workshops
Yeah. It's
which
really
enable
amazing.
you to engage in that much deeper way? So I feel like we are.
Yeah, it's really
kind of-
amazing.
I'm going to use your word unique because it is unique.
It is unique. Well, it's handmade, so it's
we
unique.
can say that, yeah. So a lot of it's in Alice Springs, some of it's in Darwin as well. So and I should also point out that for those who are not as adventurous as we are, this is a very, very safe, streamlined, simple tour as well. It's going to be quite extraordinary, I think, but by the same token, very easy to do. Small group, lovely hotels, lovely galleries. So if anyone who's thinking, I'm not sure about this, it sounds a bit complicated, it's not.
Yeah.
It's going to be just perfect.
So the information evening is on
The
February
2nd,
the
so
2nd.
Thursday the 2nd of
Thursday,
February.
February the 2nd.
6:30.
6:30.
For
It's
7 o'clock
free,
start. It's free.
but you have to register.
Register at info@westtravelclub.com.au and please provide us with the names of any attendees you wish to bring along.
That's right. So
Very
we
important.
can give you spots.
Indeed.
We're in 50 Hasler Road in Osborne
In Osborne
Park in
Park.
Western Australia. So that'll be just wonderful for them to come and meet you and
Yeah, look, and we're going to have a
hear
bit of a
about it.
slide night. We'll show some images. We'll just talk about a whole heap of stuff. And it'd be a great opportunity to find out more, to find out whether you're the sort of person that would really enjoy an experience like this.
So it's info@westtravelclub.com.au.
Absolutely.
Great.
I'm glad you brought that up after all.
I'm glad I led you into it. You were slightly reluctant there.
You're very well. I guess I'm a little cautious of overexposing things sometimes.
Oh, look, you can't overexpose yourself, Will. Perhaps you can.
I think we'll stop right there. Well, look, gents, as I like to say, and it's been quite a while since I've been able to say coffee o'clock because our cafeteria has just opened this week after Christmas break.
No,
Yay.
it's the 15th, Will. I'm sorry.
No. Seriously,
is it?
The cafeteria? This is the first week it's been open.
Great. I thought it was the 15th of January, but I'm glad to be corrected. Let's go and see.
No, what are you talking about? Hang on a second. You're breaking my heart here. You mean it's not open till next week?
I think so.
What is wrong with these people? I'm not afraid to say this in public, on the record. What is wrong with these people?
What's wrong with this world? Come on, Will. I'll make you a nice cup of tea.
Okay, that's great. Tea time it is. Gents, thanks for joining us on the Pod Well Travelled. We'll see you both here next week.
With
and
coffee.
hopefully the cafe will be open.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye
Will.
now.
Will.